Many years ago, on a dark, cold night, in the old kingdom of Bavaria, 3 weeks before modern-day Christmas, a young child walked the cobblestone streets of his village. The roads were icy with the chill of winter, and suddenly the boy was frightened by the sound of chains echoing off the still, lifeless homes surrounding him. The wet street below his feet felt cold, and all the lights around him dimmed, leaving the boy scared and lost. Without a warning, the boy was snatched up by a hooded figure, with hooves for feet, birch branches that looked like wisps of hair, and an elongated face with satyr horns. The creature wrapped the boy in a sack and dragged him to a nearby lake. We all know the story of Santa Claus, the humble Saint Nicholas who gilds the sky with cheer and gifts us with presents if we are good. But have you ever wondered why there is a dark side of this folklore hiding in the shadows that we rarely speak of? The song tells us all we need to know about old Saint Nick. He's made a list and checked it twice, and he will find out who has been naughty and who has been nice. What about those of us who have been naughty? Well, the truth of that story is much darker than what you may have heard from your childhood Christmas stories. The truth is that Santa Claus does not travel alone with only his reindeer. In fact, he is always accompanied by a dark figure that deals with those of us who have not been so nice. There is a whole world of Yuletime traditions that we are sheltered from in many countries due to the persecution of pagan culture for centuries. Many of the things we know about Christmas today is a bit toned down from how it was understood by many children throughout the world before Christ was the main star of the show. Krampus has been understood as Santa Claus's evil twin, an alter ego, if you will. While Santa gives families a moment of sheer bliss and telling those of us who have been good that we will be rewarded for our sacrifices. Krampus lurks behind his counterpart, waiting to snatch those who have been naughty and take them to be punished. The original folklore was that Krampus would take the naughtiest of children to be drowned, where less naughty, but still not good children would get beaten with a birch branch or simply scared. All of these were only folk tales that people of Bavaria, Germany, or Scandinavia during the Middle Ages would tell their young children in hopes the fear would make their children behave better, especially in colder months when everyone is forced inside and must be close together. In Season 8 of Bob's Burgers, the show introduces a similar character to Krampus, mentioned by Teddy, who comes from Eastern European descent. This creature becomes known as the Bleaken. It vaguely resembles that of Krampus, and the episode itself has an interesting parallel to the folklore of medieval Germany and Bavaria, which I wanted to break down for you in this video on the Chronicles of Bob. If you're new to my channel, thank you for giving me a chance. The Chronicles of Bob is something that I have wanted to do for a long time, and I feel very motivated to continue making videos as more people continue watching and leaving great comments. In my videos, I break down theories, ideas, and episodes from Bob's Burgers and give you some new ways to consider the show in connection with concepts that I have learned or that have inspired me while getting my graduate degree in the social sciences. I love things like anthropology and psychology, and there is no shortage of those ideas found in my favorite television show, Bob's Burgers. If you are a returning viewer, thank you for your ongoing support. In this video, I'm going to dive into how Bob's Burgers has used old European folklore to remind us here in the United States that there are so many ways we can celebrate the winter solstice that are different from the traditional Christmas ideology. Who is the Bleaken in Bob's Burgers? According to Teddy, the Bleaken is a creature that comes to a home during Christmas that is not filled with the holiday spirit. It will sneak around the rooftops and steal gifts that families leave for each other under their tree. This old story has been told to Teddy from his Nana, and he wonders the truth of the tale, considering that she let him and his other younger family members drink wine during the holidays. But there is no denying that the Bleaken looks and sounds a lot like that of the old folklore of Krampus. Krampus has been debated in anthropology for many years. Some believe that the tradition of Krampusnacht, or the Night of Krampus, which takes place around December 5th, is a German tradition. But there are some scholars who believe its origin is actually from the dissolved kingdom of Bavaria. The history of Bavaria is vast and has been the center of many historical landmarks and military takeovers, making it understandable that they would develop a childhood folktale to prevent their future generations from misbehaving, so they would be able to protect them using their own laws and traditions. However, the Krampus festival, in many years following its creation, was banned by Christian authorities in Eastern Europe due to its dark and unholy nature. But in recent years, since about the turn of the 21st century, this ancient pagan tradition has made a resurgence in Europe, and even in some areas of the United States, where many people descend from those parts of the world. Depending on how you choose to believe where Krampus originated, the word can take on many different meanings. In German, which is where most people attribute the folktale to, the name Krampus translates to claw. But in Bavarian, it translates to death or rotten. In either capacity, it is clear that this creature is not to be trifled with, and can bring upon great suffering if you fail to appease his jolly counterpart. You may not think about it when Christmas time comes around, but so many of the traditions we follow in the United States actually have been a reduction of another tradition that is far more ancient than we could ever imagine. The 12 days of Christmas comes from the Scandinavian tradition of celebrating the Yule from the 21st of December until the winter solstice, when it is often the most harsh and difficult month to get through. This tradition recognizes the sun's disappearance behind the thick layer of snowy clouds blocking its warmth. In many European countries, winter marked the end of the growth season, the time that cattle were ready to be slaughtered and eaten, and different alcohol like wine and mead were finally done fermenting. Combined with cold, frigid temperatures, this curated an environment suited for drinking and celebrating the year and looking forward to the years to come. This time of year was one of the only in Roman law where the lower classes of people were allowed to drink wine and jeer at emperors and royalty without punishment, known as Saturnalia. And it might surprise you to learn that it was on December 25th that the ancient Romans, many years before the birth of Jesus, observed Juvenalia, which was a feast honoring the children of Rome, where the birthday of Mithria was celebrated, who was the god of unconquerable sun. Their belief was that an infant god was born of a rock on December 25th and was considered the most sacred day of the year to them. It wasn't until the Middle Ages that Jesus became the focal point of the winter solstice, and soon took place of all pagan traditions, in addition to the gods or goddesses who were once worshipped before him. You might be thinking to yourself, what does all this backstory have to do with Bob's Burgers and the Bleaken? But I would argue that this information is pertinent to understanding how I'm going to explain this next part of the episode. In the Bleaken Part 1, Linda is awoken from an exciting dream, where it feels almost prophetic. And she is told it is her responsibility to throw an incredible holiday party that will bring her community together in joy and give everyone their holiday spirit back. After the destruction of a local gay nightclub, her dream becomes a mission that she is suddenly very driven to achieve. Sacrificing the top of her Christmas tree and using her favorite ornaments, Linda starts to put this party together, and as it unfolds, it's about what we as an audience expected. It was nice, but maybe a little underwhelming, compared to what she wanted to achieve and what was there in her dream. But suddenly, at the end of the night, she realized that her treetop was missing. And the rest of the episode is spent trying to pin down who stole her tree topper. The episode takes a dark turn when Louise encourages her siblings to join her to find the Bleaken and retrieve her mother's lost ornaments. The hunt for the ornaments takes them on a windy road through dark, snowy streets, and it feels like they are being followed by the Bleaken itself. They discover a trail of ornaments, and it leads them to an underground tunnel where Bob and Linda finally catch up. Meanwhile, Teddy is trying to prevent a decoration thief from stealing his inflatable Santa. The convergence of these two plots will become important later. While in the underground tunnel, the Belchers finally see it, the creature Teddy described from his childhood. A black figure with feathers and long horns coming from his head. Its presence frightened the family, and they all believed for a moment that they were living in a folk tale all of their own. After getting the courage to go through the next door and understand what happened, they are confronted with a huge underground Christmas rave, complete with hundreds of people, decorations from all different traditions, and at the top sits Linda's treetop overlooking the entire party. The thing to understand in this moment is that Linda in her dream saw something that wasn't possible to achieve at Bob's Burgers restaurant, but it is something that can be possible with the help of other people. She called Sergeant Bosco in hopes he would be able to help her get her tree back. But the truth of it is that she just wanted to feel connected to the winter solstice. Connected in a way that was less traditional than what she normally gets to do with her family. Thinking about all the ways that this achieves a pagan celebration, makes me wonder that this episode is trying to remind us that very little about Christmas has to do with Christianity, and more to do with all the pagan traditions that have been appropriated in order to assimilate cultures into a standardized way of celebration. Looking around the room, there are hints of many different cultures, religious traditions, and holiday celebrations. Christmas is only one thing that can be celebrated throughout December, and this episode is an incredible reminder that we don't have to do what has been expected of us simply because it is what we have always done. At the end of this episode, Bob becomes the Bleaken to divert Sergeant Bosco away from the underground Christmas party, and along his path becomes intertwined with the inflatable Santa that Teddy was hiding in, giving me the perfect evidence I need to tidy up my theory. Bob and Teddy in this episode are the manifestation of Krampus and Santa. Krampus and Santa have become intertwined with each other so much that it is almost impossible to separate the two. This is how we have movies like The Nightmare Before Christmas, where Jack Skellington takes on the persona of Santa and hides him away so he can be Santa Claus for just a day. Or movies like Krampus, where there is no more Santa and all we have left is darkness and despair. These movies, along with the Bleaken, give us insight into a world where things are not as simple as we have been told. It is perfectly fine to have a tradition that is based on the Christian culture and ideology, but for many other people, we don't feel very connected to that story anymore, and look for something a bit different and nuanced from the nativity scene that we're all so familiar with. I think this episode of Bob's Burgers is much deeper when you start pulling apart the layers of it and understand it from a socio-cultural perspective. I hope you enjoyed my unique take on who I believe the Bleaken is. Learning from the past can reveal so much about the present. Happy holidays, my friends. Thank you for watching, and be sure to like this video if you enjoyed it, and subscribe to the Chronicles of Bob for more great ideas. Until next time, enjoy the show.